Clubroot is a soil-borne disease with long-lived resting spores. It produces a club-like gall on the canola root, and so that makes it so that it's difficult to uptake water and nutrients. That reduces the plant's growth and basically causes yield loss, so it can't fill seeds, it can't do things because its roots don't work. Western Canadian farmers definitely should be concerned about clubroot. There's a lot of new pathotypes being identified within the area that it's already established, and the spread across Western Canada just continues. So they've identified fields in Alberta, obviously, lots of fields. Saskatchewan, there's new areas with clubroot, and Manitoba, they've identified infestations. So if you haven't seen clubroot in your fields, it still may be nearby, and there's a diverse pathogen population that you have to worry about, and so preventing it is very important. One of the important things to prevent clubroot from really establishing and being a problem is having a 1 in 3 rotation for canola, so just growing canola 1 in 3 years. The next big thing is resistant hybrids, so always grow a resistant hybrid whether you have clubroot or not. Soil movement is important, so if you're preventing soil movement, you can prevent clubroot from ending up in your fields as well as transferring from one field to another. The other thing with soil movement is there's new virulent pathotypes and you don't want to remove those from one field to the next. You need to control your weeds. So a lot of the weeds in Western Canada are crucifer weeds, and clubroot can grow on those, as well as canola volunteers. So it's very important to control those early in your crop as well. It's also very important to scout. So you may have a clubroot resistant variety, and if you scout to make sure that you're not getting virulent patches within that, that's important, as well as scouting for the initial establishment of the disease. Once you see clubroot on your field, if it's a small patch, you can do what's called patch management. So you could pull plants, or you could manage that patch by grassing it over. One of the last things you can do is control the pH. So if you have a patch, you could lime it to increase the pH and decrease the disease's ability to propagate. Or you could also put lime on your field entrances or your field exits to prevent spread from one field to the next. With a 1 in 3 year crop rotation, 90% of the spores are broken down, and this is what the Canola Council of Canada recommends as well. So in a short rotation, what you do is you increase the number of resting spores and you can get high resting spore loads for clubroot. If you have a 1 in 3 and you're breaking down those spores, basically you get a lower pressure, which puts lower selection pressure on the resistant hybrid, and it allows that resistant hybrid to function properly. Rotation of genetics is key to prevent clubroot resistance breakdown in canola hybrids. If you have clubroot in your field, the goal is to not grow the same resistance consecutively, because what happens is that with the pathogen diversity within the clubroot population, there's always rare types that propagate. And once those have propagated on that resistant hybrid, if you put the same resistant hybrid in again, those will propagate again and create a bigger problem as they increase. You'll end up with a patch, and then you'll have a completely broken down hybrid and a huge spore load. CR1 was the initial resistance deployed by the Canadian industry. The first hybrid was 45H29 back in 2009. Since then, CR1's been deployed in a number of different hybrids across different companies in Canada. For growers that don't have clubroot, and that's the majority of growers, CR1 is still a good option for them. It's a good, strong resistance, and there's a lot of hybrid options available. For growers that have grown CR1 in multiple cycles, it's good to consider rotating to another source, rather than waiting for CR1 to break down before you switch sources. So what happens if you wait for CR1 to break down is you'll increase the spore load massively in your field, and then you're bringing that new resistance into a field with a high spore load that can create problems. If you rotate before issues happen, then that'll keep your spore loads low, and it'll save CR1 genetics for future use on your farm in new hybrids. Clubroot hybrids prevent the disease from establishing. The clubroot hybrids yield really well, and they have really good agronomics, so there's no reason not to grow a clubroot resistant hybrid. The other thing is if you rotate your clubroot resistance, you can avoid resistance breakdown, keep those spore loads low, and so the new hybrids coming in will have an easier time managing the disease and getting those spore loads even lower. If you're in prevention mode where you don't have clubroot, the best spore load is 0. And so if you can use clubroot hybrids to keep clubroot off your farm, that's a really effective use of clubroot-resistant canola hybrids. If you do have clubroot and you're growing resistant hybrids, it's good to not wait for a breakdown of, the CR1 resistance, for example, because if you allow breakdown on your farm, suddenly you're increasing those spore loads massively, and you're back to having a big problem with clubroot. Brevant is one of 2 premium seed brands by Corteva Agriscience. Corteva Agriscience is the company that introduced the first clubroot-resistant hybrid back in 2009. We have an industry-leading trait development program, and that's allowing us to advance new sources of clubroot resistance and create new products available for you to manage the disease on your farm. While we lead the industry in clubroot-resistant hybrids, clubroot is a problem that can't be solved by science alone. It's important for growers in Western Canada to realize that clubroot resistance is a finite resource. Proper on-farm management is really important in the fight against clubroot. What we need to do is we need to work together to better defend the crops. We need to keep those spore loads low. We need to keep those virulent types from spreading across your farm and off your farm. And we need to move forward with sustainable options.